Today, we're going to dive deep into a single, really puzzling line from the poet William Blake. Honestly, it sounds almost impossible at first, but it just might hold the key to understanding pain, resilience, and maybe even how we grow.
So, here it is. This is our anchor for today's exploration. It's a shocking and powerful image, isn't it? It's violent, it's visceral, and, well, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. A worm, literally sliced in two, forgiving the very thing that destroyed it? How does that even work?
But here's the thing. Blake isn't just trying to be dramatic. He's actually giving us a kind of blueprint for how to transform suffering. It's a completely radical way to think about life's inevitable wounds. So let's start unpacking it, layer by layer.
Okay, so to really get to the heart of this proverb, we first have to decode the powerful symbols he's using. He's not just painting a picture of a garden here, he's painting a picture of the human soul. So first up, the worm. The worm, that's us. It represents our inner selves, our psyche. You can think of the soul as something vulnerable, just living its life in the soil of our existence. You know, just quietly doing its thing. And then, the plow shows up. The plow is a symbol for all the inevitable hardships and traumas that just tear right through our lives. We're talking about those big, intrusive forces, social pressures, personal betrayals, those deep psychological wounds that just disrupt everything, often completely out of the blue.
And that brings us to the wound itself, the cut. What Blake is implying here is that this moment of pain, this kind of adversity, is just an unavoidable part of being human. The plow of life is going to find all of us eventually. The real question isn't if it will happen, but what do we do after the cut?
So, given that the cut is pretty much a guarantee, the worm is suddenly faced with this massive choice. And this is where Blake's genius really kicks in, revealing that the act of forgiveness is the whole point.
Now, this is absolutely crucial. Forgiving the plow isn't about being a victim. It's not about saying the harm was okay. No way. It is an act of incredible inner strength. It's an active movement, a conscious decision to not let that wound define your entire future.
Because the alternative, choosing not to forgive, well, that just traps the soul. Blake calls this the poison of the spirit. It's a choice that locks us into a cycle of revenge and what he calls a devouring anger. Our spirit just stagnates. It becomes like standing water in a closed-off, murky cistern of resentment.
So this choice presents two totally different paths for the soul, a concept Blake captures with these two powerful water metaphors. The question is, are you going to be a container for old pain, or are you going to be a source of new life?
And here you can see the two outcomes, side by side. The cistern, that's the path of resentment. It's stagnant, it's poisonous, and it's completely trapped by the past. But the fountain, that's the path of forgiveness. It's an active movement, it's overflowing with what Blake calls prolific wisdom, and it's in a state of perpetual motion. It literally transforms the poison into a sweet delight.
And what is so remarkable about this is how Blake's wisdom from centuries ago perfectly anticipates a modern psychological concept, post-traumatic growth. This isn't just about bouncing back to where you were. It's the idea that profound psychological expansion can happen precisely because of the adversity. In Blake's world, the cut itself becomes the very place where we expand, the fertile ground where new strength actually grows from.
So if we choose the path of the fountain, what's the ultimate result of this incredibly difficult, transformative process? It's not just about healing, it's about harvesting something entirely new.
It can really be broken down into three core steps. First, you have to embrace the cut. You don't deny the pain, you accept its reality. Second, you forgive the plow. That's the active choice to release that resentment. And finally, you reap the harvest. You integrate that trauma into a new, stronger, and more visionary version of yourself. But Blake doesn't stop with just the individual. He takes this idea and scales it way up, suggesting that this deeply personal choice is actually a blueprint for a healthier society. It's a direct challenge to that eye for an eye logic of revenge, and it offers a path toward real restorative justice instead of just endless punishment.
You see, a society that can't forgive the plow, just like a person, it gets trapped. It builds more prisons to house all of its collective resentment. It becomes totally reliant on the cold stones of law and gets caught in all these punitive nets and traps, completely unable to move forward into a better future.
Ultimately, what Blake's wisdom teaches us is that true growth requires a kind of death and rebirth. The palace of wisdom is literally built on the foundation of our past selves. the parts of us that were wounded. Forgiveness is the act of lovingly leaving those old bones behind so we can build something new and beautiful.
And that leaves us with a final question to think about. By choosing the path of the fountain over the cistern, by forgiving the plows in our own lives, what kind of amazing harvest of wisdom might just be waiting there for us on the other side?